Hello and welcome back to the Tales of the Whoniverse podcast. Hello, my name is Matt and I'm back here again with um this is very different again. It's like a one-to-one kind of style podcast. And I'm going to
Yeah,
introduce Aidan the Shetland Hoovian. Hello Aidan.
yeah, yeah. Hello again, Matt. It looks like it's just the two of us tonight.
Just the two of us. Building
Just the two of us. Oh, I should probably stop before we get copyrighted.
Oh, I think that's the least of the problems at the minute with copyright on YouTube. I think a little bit of acapella is fine, but if people in the comment sections below say it's terrible, I will literally rate you a zero.
Fair enough.
So, tonight we are back and we are doing a very special audio. So, we are still waiting for our podcast, Tommy Wimey, to be released with a very special guest. And we talked a little bit about this audio with him. It's a lovely little piece written by a wonderful woman called Lizzie Hopley. It was the return of this character after his final story in Absolution. If you know the story we're talking about, it's the long-awaited Utermison return of Conrad Westmaster's Carries in the Battle of Giants Causeway, which was part of the Sontarans versus Rutans arc, which was celebrating 50 years of their debut in The Time Warrior with Sarah Jane Smith, who also celebrated 50 years, which is an amazing feat. So,
Yes.
so, so for this podcast, we're going to do a little bit of a different style for tonight's format since there's two of us. So for tonight, we're going to do opinions about the episode, going to give opening thoughts, positives, if there's any negatives, and then we're going to wrap up and do a different style tonight. And me and Aidan are going to do a little bit of a question and answer session about each other and bouncing off about what is it about the Eighth Doctor that draws you to him as an incarnation, and what audios would you recommend for Big Finish listeners to start with him on your journey, or for new fans that have never tried an audio? So it's going to be fantastic, probably. Or episode, sorry,
Yes.
I was getting my bearings.
That's all right.
So yes, on with the show. So the Battle of Giants Causeway. Where do I begin? So there is a lot that goes on within the story. A lot of stuff goes down. So the opening, I'll start with the opening, which is one of my favourite returns for a Doctor Who TARDIS team. So how do you bring back a character after so long? Have a general chat in the TARDIS? Are you already there? Are you already landing? No, you're crash landing. Yeah, all three of the TARDIS team are literally crash landing and are a bit of a temporal time loop, which gets them to repeat stuff and makes them feel about deja vu. And basically, they are landing in the land, not down under, no, not Australia. They're landing in
Yeah,
the
wrong country, Matt.
yeah. I was thinking of taking Jovanka, right? No, honestly, they were landing in the land of Ireland in a place which was an actual historical part of the Giant's Causeway, which I didn't actually know existed to this audio, where those two giants had those intersections where they supposedly meet, which is like a myth. Um, but yeah, to get the ground running, I just love the fact that this story, it feels like it's more of Carey's finest hour in this story. Because in the last two audios we've been having with the Eighth Doctor and Charlie, like with her with the Lady Audacity, or with her stuff on her own, it's more about her time with the Doctor and the Edwardian adventurers continuing as always. But what I've been loving at the minute is the crew side of it. As I mentioned, Lady Audacity, they feel like they're sisters, like traveling together at the minute. They seem to be teasing the Doctor. And when we last left off with Carey's, it was more like a well, they won't they originally before they turned it more into a brother and sister kind of bond in the sort of way like they did with Jamie and Victoria. So I personally believe it's a wonderful story if you're into crews getting on, loving the banter and a bit of the bickering, but it's all playful fun. Yeah, to really get to the nitty gritty of it, Lizzie Hopley really, really made Carey's a wonderful character in this story. I do love parts of him in the Divergent arc. when he started, like where it all began. But then when it got to things like terra firma, we really got to know more about his life post assassin, post monk, and such. With this, in a war about Centurions or Sontarans, it was quite fascinating that they separated Carey's meeting like the known enemies really of the Doctor after they've just had the introduction, because obviously there was a bit of a separation period in this story. And if sorry if I'm pausing a bit, I'm just trying to remember because I just heard it again the other day. But yeah, I like the fact he gets to learn about the Sontarans, but not too much about the way. She's saying, oh, they're just aliens, a bit like him and Charlie. Charlie, though, it was kind of vague. When hearing the story, it sounded like she'd already encountered them before, without basically saying she had, because she seemed aware of Sontar and she seemed quite aware of Sontarans themselves. So it seems like, unless the Doctor's told her about them before, she's not shocked to see them. So it sounds to me like that could be a story for another day.
Yeah.
But no, how I thought about the story with Carey's absolutely amazing. As I said at the start when we had our guest on before, Conrad Westmus, I believe this is a story about Carey's finding his way still post the diversion arc. It's like he's finding more alien than before when he kept telling people, "Oh, I'm not this child. I'm not this. I'm not that. I'm not related to you," to one of the ladies in the story. But then he basically when it got to the nitty gritty of it, when it was revealed about the Rootans, it's like he had this soul connection with them because he was seeing it from an outsider's perspective. He was seeing the Rutan hosts as more like him because he felt like he was an outsider and they were outsiders, which I
Yeah.
really, really admired because they weren't really touching about that as much in Carey's original run about how he felt about being in another universe. Because obviously there was
Yeah.
really no time for them to develop. It was just go. It's like the Doctor said recently, and like oh, what was it? Well, not recently as per se, but like back in the giggle, he's always running, never stopping, never looking back, and that's what it felt like with Carey. They never looked back from the diversion arc. But
Yeah.
anyway, before I continue with more thoughts about the audio, because I still have a bit more about them, we're going over to Aidan. What's your opening thoughts about the Battle of Giants Causeway?
Yeah. Because I know you've already touched on most of them already. Like the bits I was going to say, but yeah, like I remember like listening to it. I was thinking like, oh my god, it's just like listening to this team like back when I first listened to them all over again. Like, yeah, because I was actually like going into this, I was like so excited, like, and because I remember like when the whole like Sontarans versus Rootans thing got announced, and I was thinking, oh cool, they've got an Eighth Doctor bit, and also like the War Doctor, Third Doctor, and Sixth Doctor, and I was thinking, okay, this is gonna be cool. And then they revealed the cover of it, and that because I still remember where I was at the time. It was like, yeah, I was at the gym. No, it's a weird place to actually just be checking Twitter and just be like, wait, oh my god, Karen's is returning, and that got me like super excited because, well, to be a bit of like going about my nostalgia, it's like Eights, Charlie, and Cows were my first like big Finish TARDIS team, so it's like I always have a soft spot for the trio, like with my favorite Doctor and some of my favorite companions. And so to see that they were coming back, I was just like, oh my god, I can't wait for this now. And yeah, it's safe to say that the story did not disappoint. Like when I listened to it, yeah, yeah, especially like being written by like Lizzie Hopley, like who if you don't know, she also played, I think it was Gemma Griffin in Terra Firma alongside the trio.
Yes, a companion writing for her Doctor and the team that she was essentially part of beforehand. It was just a weird and must have been surreal for her because in that story it's introduced that she was before them and it was
Yeah,
before even Mary Shelley.
yeah, it's like directly before, like storm warning happens like. Okay, yeah. Maybe save that bit for a Terra Firma video later on.
Oh yeah, no, of course. But as I say, I get what you're saying, but no, the wonderful thing about that, it led from actress Lizzie to writing for the trio that she wrote before. So it was sort of like, in a way, it was a mini reunion on this stuff.
Yeah,
And and also speaking of reunions, this was the first time, I believe, since the Heroes of Sontar, it was a welcome back to John Banks, who played the Sontarans, before Dan Starkey started playing them on Big Finish. So it was his
yeah.
long-awaited return. And I believe he did so well. It was like he never left. It was like hearing Heroes of Sontar for the first time again. I think that's been the beautiful thing about this whole run of stories, is seeing the Sontaran actors getting together that you've never heard. Or do you think it's the first time that they've all done it? Because I think the finale is like with John Banks, Chris Ryan, and Dan Starkey, and the one beforehand was John Culshaw. So it's a mix of people who've not played the Sontarans or people who have, but not for a long while together. So
Yeah,
it made it says that kind of it's one of the highlights of the story. It's one of the most funniest things of all time you'd ever part again.
I think I know what you're getting at. Just
So with Doctor Who, I think Stephen Moffat kind of maddened the Sontarans quite a bit, and especially with Strax. So having a Centurion essentially be like the ruler of Rome, like the king or something. Yeah, I know, King of Sontar type of pun. If you're a Fourth Doctor fan, you kind of know that reference. But yeah, with this, I was in firm disbelief at this part of the story. So, what were they thinking? What were they smoking? What on
yeah,
earth is going on? I
yeah,
mean, I absolutely adore it, but it was, what is this madness? A Sontaran in the bathtub, and you just like, just
yeah. I was
he's
waiting for
not,
us to just get to this bit.
he's not even covered in bubbles or whatever. So I don't know what Charlie and the Doctor were honestly thinking. If they filmed that as an actual episode, I could see all the comments just now. Doctor Who has gone absolutely bonkers with Sontaran in bathtub.
Oh,
It's one thing the Sontaran in the book said chocolate, like the guy from SpongeBob, but this was just whoa! It was so much. But
yeah,
no, it was even funnier when he started to stand up, and you could just hear the disbelief continue. The Doctor and Charlie, like, he sat as Sontaran. Yeah, Neil, let's move on to that.
yeah,
But no, I love them. I love it. It was comedic. There was seriously wonderful, beautiful moments. The Irish, like, what was it? The Celts. That was it. The Celts. I knew there was
yeah,
something at the back of my head when Charlie befriended the not Charlie, sorry, Carey. Sorry, I slipped a time track.
yeah.
It was Carey who befriended the female Celt, and I felt so sorry when it was all revealed. You know, like it was all Rutans, and the girl was actually the only legit human one there. It was just
Yeah.
heartbreaking because Carys felt for her, and then the Rutans played him like a fool because he said, "Oh yeah, you're going from another universe." They played on his kind nature.
Yeah,
So
like they took full advantage of his kindness.
yeah, and I believe with like his kind nature for Carys, it was just a bit. It was sad, but that's why I believe it works so well as a story because he's got such a great nature to being with the Doctor and Charlie. It's like they don't really show it because he was an assassin, he's a monk, and you just really felt for him in this story. I think for me, I there's a few Carey stories I believe I feel for him on a personal level. And the last story before this was definitely Terra Firma, where again, if you're taking somebody out of another universe, you've got to be that guide for them because he doesn't know any better. So when the
Yeah,
Doctor gets away from the Rutans, he just thinks, "Oh, just doing ridiculous. They're harmless. They're just survivors. They're just like me." And they rely on the person, and that's exactly what they do. If a baddie knows your weakness, they play on that, and kindness is Carey's weakness, unfortunately. In like his art,
yeah,
that's not a negative on him. It's a great strength, but the villains don't see that. They've never cared. So I think this story, to me, like you said earlier, it's a great success story because it gives you more about Carey's, gives you more into an insight on how he's feeling being in another universe. I felt more reconnected with him than when I first heard his run. It felt more like such a treat and such a joy. And hopefully, it's not the last we get to hear that little Uterrazon, coming
Yeah,
back to the audio. So Big Finish, when we release this, if you're hearing this, Conrad is knocking, everyone's knocking. Please knock on the
yeah,
door and get in for more.
yeah. Come on, Big Fish. Give the fans what they want.
So, what I'm going to say to you, Aidan, is did you, like in the episode structure, I will say there's only one nitpick I had at the end, but it's not a negative. It was just how the story wrapped up. I thought it was very fast.
Yeah,
I feel like I kept missing the bit where the Centurions ended up defeated. But keeping up, I
yeah,
missed that part.
yeah. I can see where you're coming from. Then the sun turns that maybe it's because like they disappeared like before the battle could be finished properly.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it's not negative on the story because it was a
Yeah, because I
beautiful.
think yeah, 'cause I think that got explained like later on, like within the other three stories in the Suntarns versus Ruten saga.
Yeah, I think it got explained more in the Jonathan Carney one, but at the time when I first heard it, I was like, "What happened? Why is it rushed out so quickly?"
Yeah,
But
it's like where did they go? Like they were just here.
yeah, because the way the Dr. Charlie and Carey's described it, it was like something bigger had happened, and then we're not hearing it. So it's like, oh, okay, what's happened? And then obviously now it makes a lot more sense with the
Yeah, like yeah, it's like when you
with the
hear like the whole like the whole arc like all the way, then you can't get like the full context of the story.
But you know what? I've always admired with Big Finish is you can have the Eighth Doctor be the best person in the room, all happy and jolly. But when it's a sad end for him, like you could tell he's devastated. Like when he was just trying to hurry out Charlie and Carey's at the end, it's like
Yeah,
they knew it was just a devastation and a waste of life, which is
yeah,
sad because that Doctor was really happy and go lucky in those early days. And I know he's just
yeah,
been through the whole hell of Sagreus and getting up Divergent art, but it just felt really sad to hear him like that, especially in front of Carries.
yeah. Like yeah, 'cause the Eighth Doctor just in general just like went through a lot like during his long life.
Yeah. And he's amazing though, the X Doctor. I think Big Finish really gave the Eighth Doctor a roller coaster of a ride. Like he had a bit of a bumpy start with some audios, don't get me wrong, but then we got that, and he just became one of the best incarnations. It's not the
Yeah,
acting. Some stories were all right, but then you get the Chimes of Midnight. You get so many like Neverland, and you just hit and Scherzo, and you just think he's just amazing. You can see why Paul was cast for the movie, and it was such a shame like he never continued past. But it's always, I think it was a blessing because when you hear about the plans they had for the 90s stuff, by episode one, you're kind of glad they missed that bullet.
yeah. It's what I've heard about the Leakley Bible. It was like the main things I can remember is like a lot of the episodes have been like remakes of like older episodes, like I think there was like a remake of like Talons of Wing Chiang possibly
Yeah,
at
yeah,
one point, and then
yeah.
like the Cybermen like reimagined as like the Sibs, which are like kind of like space pirate things,
Oh, I
and then
pronounce it as Tomb of the. Oh, I pronounce it as Tomb of the Sibes because that's more of an American thing.
oh I thought it was pronounced as Sibs, like I might be wrong
Well,
though, like
we could be both be right, but you never know
yeah
because obviously it was what if.
yeah, and then there's a whole thing like with the master being the Doctor's brother, and they were looking for their father like Ulysses.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
only closest that actually would have happened for the show is the final game, which would have been Roger Delgado's farewell from the show. If he, unfortunately, if he didn't pass away beforehand, they were going to write off for the
yeah,
master to stay dead, and Delgado was going to sacrifice himself, revealing he was the Doctor's brother.
yeah,
I think in some ways, in one point of view, I really wanted to see that story, but in another, I'm just like, I'm kind of glad we didn't because without, we would never have had the incredible actors to have walked in the master's shoes.
Yeah, like Jeffrey Beavers, Anthony Ainley,
Michelle
Alex
Gomez,
McQueen,
Cassie Dewan.
Eric Roberts.
Yeah, and I just think that's an amazing like perspective. But the only time I know there's a fan audio of it on YouTube, but Big Finish also ever adapted it. I'd be happy to hear it as well, like the final game.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say next. So we seem to have pretty much covered all the positives for the Battle of Giants Causeway. Um, as a historical episode, though, I believe I'm going to research again the Giants Causeway because it had been a while. I quickly looked it up after the show, but it's fascinating to me. I know I say show, I mean the podcast for people just out of technical terms here. Not actually go off and just like watch some Doctor Who, but literally on the podcast, just to go, hi, bye Aiden, I'm just off to, like, to do the Battle of Giants Causeway research and just like forget you and all. No, I'm just joking. No, seriously, though, I love that Doctor Who at Big Finish really looks at the historical side of history that really isn't tapped. Like Wrath the Unseen,
Yeah.
I didn't know was a pure historical story either until afterwards. Every story that's a pure historical, that there's only one or two that I'm actually aware of. The rest never heard of, and that's the beauty of these audios is learning about that part of history.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for you, Aidan, look, for historicals and Doctor Who, like the main show, I kind of get why they won't do it without no aliens because it sort of sparks more. But for you, with Big Finish, that's more of a draw, isn't it? Because you get more
Yeah.
out of history when you're learning like this one.
Yeah. Because like from what I've experienced, like for pure historicals with Big Finish, like all of them have just like absolutely hit. Like they just haven't missed yet so far. Like Wrath of the
I,
Iceni, The Settling. Now that one I remember was really good.
I
Like
think
with Seven
Jacqueline.
Ace and Hex.
Oh yeah, I think Jacqueline Rayner. Sorry, Jacqueline Rayner's amazing. Dip into historical with a wonderful companion called Evelyn from Queen Mary the First. So in the Marianne conspiracy, which I could talk about
Yes.
forever because that's a beautiful. That's another beautiful step into history.
Yeah.
But we could also talk about that another time because it's just
Yeah.
a wonderful story with Colin Baker and Maggie Stables. At some point, we will be doing stuff like 60s era because obviously to tie in with Charlie, we will also be talking about at some point, not tonight, obviously, at some point, we'll be doing the next story, which is Charlie and Sixie together.
Oh,
Which is
wasn't it? Wait, wasn't it? It's like like the third Doctor and Sarah. Yeah, it's like
Oh,
it's 3 and Sarah, like in the Brigadier, like next. Yeah, you might be getting to 6 and Charlie a bit too early.
Well, do you know what it was? I slipped into the
Yeah.
chronology of it. I was talking about from their timeline perspective about when they see this
Yeah.
entire again. Whoops.
Yeah, it's a bit like wibbly wobbly timey wimey sort of thing.
Yeah. Oops. I nearly hit off the wrong button. I nearly swapped this off. Wonderful, isn't it?
Oh goodness, not again. It's the outro thing early.
Oh no, it wasn't actually setting the title sequence off. I was actually nearly swiped this off. So
Yeah, so then plot twist, it would just be me and the podcast. So I'm just like, yeah, so yeah,
Oh,
so
you-
I'd just
oh,
be like, what do I talk about? Oh yes, have I got time to tell you about how the bus robot from the Greatest Show of the Galaxy is the best part? Oh, what? What do you mean no?
yes. Have I told you the tragic story of Darth Plagueis the Wise? Oh, sorry, that's the wrong one.
Yeah, it's like many times now. Yes.
Yes. So before we start getting into a different part of this podcast, so we've delved on the positives, a little bit of negatives. So from your point of view, Aidan, I can safely say there is no negatives from you on this story.
Yeah, definitely not.
Well, it's just when it's a well-crafted story in the timeline.
Yeah, it's like well crafted and like it's just
Oh,
an
do you know what?
absolutely
We don't
banger of a
talk about
story.
often enough. I've just remembered another positive. It's the beautiful score of Battle of Giants Causeway. It just hit the ground running from the start. It's
That's the thing I've noticed with like the whole like this is going to skip ahead into like the other three stories in the Sontarans versus Roots like thing, but the scores in all of them, like I think for the first time like in a good while, like that I've actually noticed like the scores, like and like it was all like so good, especially Born to Die is like score with like Six and Charlie, like that one's like my favorite of like the four. But yeah, like all four of like the Sontarans versus Written Stories, like the music in there is just like, oh, it's just so good.
Yeah, I believe also the one with Sarah and Free and the break is so amazing because it felt like it was a story lost to like the 70s. It sounded something you could have physically have watched with like Doctor Who. It felt like the Radiophonic Workshop had come back to do that score.
Yeah,
That's what I loved about the music. I think Doctor Who is wonderful on audio, but when you've got music that's not overly bombastic no, that's not a criticism of Murray Gold, by the way. Like in audios, we're talking all. If you got music that blends with the surroundings, it feels natural to the ears. It's absolute. It's like you're there. When I heard these audios, I felt like I was transported to a deleted episode from the Divergent arc. I felt transported back in time with John Pertwee, Colin, and even the War Doctor. That felt all blissful hearing the music. And
yeah,
to the designer for that, that was incredible. Even the sound effects just worked, especially that music. Sontar,
yeah.
Sontar.
Aha,
I,
songs,
I
aha.
I recently heard that, funny enough, in the Paternoster Gang stuff, and I just thought, oh my god, it's following me everywhere. I just love that you got
Yeah,
Sontar as their chant, and that theme is their official chant in like audio. But no, just to roll it back a minute, John Banks, as I say, it was wonderful to hear him again after so. And Dan Starkey, it
yeah,
was such a different dynamic because obviously Dan is the main commander at Big Finish now for all the Sontarans. He's literally, in a sense, he is like what David Banks was in the 80s for the Cybermen, which Nick Briggs is now. So having Dan do versatility with Sontarans is always great. But having John to play off with him in this and the next and then Born to Die, in fact, from with John Coleshaw and Chris Ryan to play off with, and the final one back to John Banks and Chris Ryan. They had least in it for that one. It was wonderful hearing the dynamic diversity of our Sontaran commanders and captains and all the different ranks in this. And as I say,
yeah,
the Centurions became such great. They're manic. They're basically disturbing as well, but in like a fun possible way.
yeah.
And oh, another scene I've just remembered. It's the one where they're eating, and you're like, the
Oh
Sontarans.
yeah,
So it's
yeah,
Sontarans
yeah.
eat.
Because remember, like they were eating it, but then I think they just spat out after.
Oh, that was disgusting. Absolutely
Yeah,
disgusting. And,
yeah,
and Charlie
yeah.
and the
They don't.
doctor
Yeah, the
noticing it.
Santarans are probably not known for their table manners.
Yeah, which is again a great concept because you never would have thought like, how do Sontarans eat? They got the probing vents, and they're like, because they don't know that, they just spat out everything.
Yeah, they're just like, nom, nom. Yeah, and they're just like, oh, this is disgusting.
Oh, hello, the Wi-Fi just injured, but whatever. If it's a do 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 exhale scene. But no, where do we get off to on that one? Yeah, the Sontarans were just, as I say, it was a great concept. I think Lizzie Hopley, like if you ever watch this, just want you to know you did the Sontaran High Command proud. It was great learning more about the Rutan War because obviously we've until these box sets they've never really met on telly. All it is they're talked about every single time the
Yeah,
Sontarans turn up. Even in the most recent War of the Sontarans, the war's still going on as far as the first, and yet we still don't know anything about this alleged war. And I'm so grateful we've had these set of stories because we would never have
yeah,
learned about it.
Yeah. Actually, I'm still pretty sure like they've only like the Rutans like they've only appeared just the once in season 15, like a classic Who. That's it for TV.
And Big Finish was before this. It was the Fifth Doctor. It was
Yeah,
post the Brewster arc. It was post that.
yeah, it's like the Castle of Fear, like part of the
Yes,
Stockbridge trilogy, I think it was called.
yes, which had the Daleks appear in the end game for that one.
Yeah,
So you had Daleks and Rooters in that one, but no, I think it was clever, and I'm ever so grateful that David Richardson called up and wanted this planned. It took about over 5 years and a pandemic, and then we finally got a great set of stories. And I'm so glad it brought back Carey's into the role. It gave me a
yeah,
different perspective about him as a character. As soon as I went away when I first heard it, I thought, do you know, it was never I never had a disdain for the character. I've always had a great fondness of it. It was just some of the stories that put me off a little because some of them felt a
yeah,
bit rushed. They felt a bit rushed. They felt they could have been a little bit timed better because but again, it's
yeah,
not their fault that the structure got
yeah,
changed. But that
yeah,
was another
yeah. It's like I won't name any stories in particular. Something inside. But yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just have to throw a bit of shade at that one in particular.
no, but I love
But
things like time
yeah,
work. I mean, time works and all that stuff. As I said last time, I think the Postal Virgin arc became the most interesting story for Carey story because you're getting to learn more about him post in the universe he's meant to be from. You barely know a lot about him. I think you only really know about him in Creed of Cromon and the Next Life, and that's about it. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's the only time I really got to know Carey's in that arc.
yeah, yeah. And then post divergent stuff. Then I think I know the main stories that I think he had like proper like he had like a proper like I'm trying to think. Yeah, is it proper presence? Is that
Fragments,
the word
yeah.
I'm looking for? Yeah, it was like terra firma, like where he's with like Gemma for most of the story, and then other lives, which yeah, like yeah, 'cause I quite like that one. And then poor Keres in that story, like
Again, but you did like the last as well, so you've got something else
yeah,
for Kev.
yeah, yeah. I was thinking more like like post Divergent, but the pre Divergent, like yeah, the last is definitely among there, and it's one of the reasons why it's one of my favorites. Like apart from its just general dark and depressing nature. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do like some stories that are like just quite darker and depressing, but yeah, like yeah, kind of just don't know what to continue on with that. But yeah, yeah, yeah. Matt, is that?
Oh,
Wait,
hello. Sorry,
yeah,
the Wi-Fi.
I was about to say, yeah, I was about to say. Wait, Matt, did your Wi-Fi cut out again?
Oh, I actually did. My wife went out. So, to be honest, this is not going to be an editing nightmare. It's actually going to be quite. But you said you left with yeah about the last. So let's pick up from the
Yeah,
last.
yeah, except yeah, 'cause I mentioned that I just like I enjoyed like the stuff they added like for Cares, like going into it a bit more, like with like Requiem, like being like with the whole like Moonstone pendant and stuff like that. It's like going into like yeah, yeah. Let me just get my words straight here. Like yeah, going into a bit about what he was thinking about, like stuff like how he felt like after the Cromin attack, like and what happened to his wife Lyda.
You know, I think what would have broken the Doctor more. That this might be controversial, but if you had swapped the girl who never was around and had Carey's in that story, he would have been cross at the Doctor for allowing Charlie to vamoose, and then if he died next in Absolution, that would have really broke him before the Lucy Miller arc. But hey, that's just me.
Yeah, yeah, because actually that's an interesting thought. Like because yeah, I'll save that for another time. Like it's an interesting thought. Like might be something to come back to at a later date.
Yeah, I only just thought of it now, and I just thought to
Yeah,
myself,
yeah. I was just
what if,
thinking like, yeah, I was
like,
thinking
if their
like,
parents to meet the Cybermen in the penultimate story, and then obviously his last story still stands absolutely. I think that might have just been a different way to look at like how that era ended before Lucy.
yeah. Although, no way, I think Lucy would have had, yeah, because I think Lucy's stuff came out like just like a bit before Absolution, or like series
Yeah,
one
which is
did.
yeah, but the timeline wise, it would have been
Yeah,
fascinating.
yeah, yeah. I know. Yeah, I know.
Because if you really pay attention to Lucy, they don't really address like Charlie's like departure and the whole Carrie's. That's something that
Yeah,
bothered me about the transition over to Lucy. I get they were wanting new listeners, but they don't
yeah,
address that it had just had a whole crew.
yeah. It's yeah, because I think, yeah, because I think they did it to more like attract people like who are more used to like the structure and pacing of New Who, like like beginning in 2005, like because they're more used, like people are more used to like seeing like, oh, like 1 hour stories, like, and then they'll be like, if they just jump in straight to Storm, they'll be, wait a minute, like why is this so long? Like, why is this a movie or something? Okay, maybe not that much, but you get what I'm.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think personally that if they ever go back to do another Lucy story, I'd like the further adventures. I'd like in the season two where she tries to ask him about his past before her, and he basically doesn't know what happened to one of his friends, thinks that she died, and the alien that he had in his custody died. I think giving Eight that closure would be another way to tick that box.
yeah. I mean, that would be an interesting bit like story that Big Finish could maybe like do. Maybe
I think the story
if you're
pitch
watching Big Finish.
itself.
Yeah, just like Big Finish, you're watching.
Yeah, but so I love the fact that they've closed some arcs, but they've never really closed what happened with Charlie and Carey's for Eight because at that point he doesn't know what happened to her, but he knows what happened to Carey's.
Yeah,
So yeah, maybe that might encourage a certain Charlotte Forward season three.
yeah, yeah, like yeah, totally. Yeah, yeah. Come on. We've been waiting for nearly 10 years.
So I think that wraps up the review. But before we finish, we're going to do something a little bit different tonight. So I'm going to give Aidan and myself. We're going to look at what makes people like the Eighth Doctor, and I'll go first for that. For me, it was seeing the television movies, seeing him like young, charismatic, replacing Sylvester, who obviously had just come back from the film and regenerated into a younger, who seemed he was larger than life, really happy, really excited. But for a brand new Doctor, he had a lot on his plate for that first day. He literally was bored. He literally thought he was flaming dead. Obviously, being shoved in the morgue, breaks out of there. And you know, unlike most doctors, does he get a break? No, him and Seven both get to fight an old enemy in their first story. Seven had the Rani, Eight had the Master. And what did he have to do? Try and save the world on his first night. But it's just kindness that I've always thought he was quite great on. But as the years have gone on, they've completely been breaking him down, poor Doctor. It's like
Yeah,
every year there's something new. With Eight, there's another layer, and you just wonder how he keeps going on. It's the outfits as well. They're brilliant for him. I always liked the Edwardian look the best. When they started changing it after Big Finish, it took me a while to get used to him in the dark eyes look, and then it became an absolutely favourite look. Then when they brought him back for something called Night of the Doctor,
oh yes.
he was he was in a really wonderful homage to his original outfit, which I thought was amazing. This is definitely someone who's prepared for a time war. Obviously, Power was so funny, like seeing him back in the robe some night, but they changed the outfit a little. I think it's his kindness and compassion that really draws me to it, and also his sarcasm. He's absolutely sarcastic as any. It's like as I say, I love time. What's the no? It's Memory Lane. I know that's your least favorite one, like one of your least favorite, but it's the comedy of the Eighth Doctor in that. Yes, I shall
Yeah,
use my Time Lord powers of looking out of the window.
yeah. It's like to me, it wasn't that bad. It's just like the second half of it just kind of just kind of dragged it down a little bit. But the first half, like, now that was like honestly like pretty funny, especially like when they got ice cream and there was that whole thing with the joke. It's just like what's the most dangerous thing in a bakery? Attila the bun.
Yeah, when you hear the eighth Doctor telling really bad jokes and he just want everyone to be excited, you know you're in for a fun ride with him.
Yeah.
No, but he's still do gem things like Seasons of Fear, where he's just some reason he's just decided to wear his old incarnation's hat because he's just like, well, why not? I'm gonna wear number 5's hat.
Yeah, because I know like in the Doctor Who magazine comics, because I know they did like little like illustrations like to show to be expected for the story, because I think he ended up having like the Fifth Doctor's hat like for quite a bit, even like during the Divergent stuff. Like he had like I think it was like the one for the Twilight Kingdom. I remember.
Yeah, but I think it's because it must have been so hot in that universe. Like even when you hear the soundscape of Creed of the Cromon, it feels like that universe is warm.
Yeah, or maybe it might be just the general areas that they went to that was just really warm. Because maybe there was some parts of it that were cold.
Maybe, yeah, well, probably don't want to get. Oh, that'd be a fascinating take. Like, you don't want to get sunstroke in the Divergent universe.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say to you. Yeah, so from your perspective, because I said mine about what draws me to 8, what draws you to 8 as an incarnation?
Yeah, I'd say one of the main things, like, this is coming from like a guy who says like 8's my absolute favorite Doctor of like all time. Like even like telling myself like that. If I told myself like maybe like 5, maybe 6 years ago, I'd probably be like, really? I have that strong opinion? And I'm just like, oh yes. And I'd say it's probably the main thing that draws me to the Doctor. It's like, or to the Eighth Doctor personally, is like he's been like around for so long. Like he's had like so many stories. Like he's been like pretty much like everything like the Doctor could be. Like he could be like he can be charming. He can be like romantic. He can be dark. He can be cold. And yeah, like, and the other thing is that like he's had like such a long life, and you kind of like feel like an overarching thing with him, like that. I think some people like could describe like some incarnations like in one word. I'd say that word for me would definitely be in a way tragedy, because like as you said, like at the start he's like happy, like happy, charming, like want to travel the universe, like see all the wonders that I had to see. But yeah, like he has like a lot of those moments, but definitely along the road, like his perspective starts to darken, like as he goes through his life, like what in the books, like in some audios, like Grace and Scherzo, and then especially towards the end of the Lucy Miller stuff and going into the Dark Eyes era, like you just start to see him like start to feel like beaten down, like, and eventually we get to Night of the Doctor, like where he's like trying to evade the Time War, like he wants no part of it, and then by the end like of that, like he gives up, like he he finally like he decides like there's no need for a doctor anymore, and yeah, gives up the name of the Doctor to become what the universe needs him to be at the time, a warrior. Yeah, sorry, I'm just starting to get a little bit emotional going through that. Like,
it's completely fine, and as I said,
yeah,
I think what fascinates me is every companion is different. As when I read the Target storybook and when I finally became aware of Fitz, they had a flirtatious banter, and it was so funny. Like you wouldn't see him like there have been audios where they imply the Doctor could be like into anything, but ain't having cheeky in the books with Fitz. And then you hear an audio how flirty he is. He's like, I'm not flirty. And then you hear him like, Oh yes, yes. Oh, here, give us some
Yeah,
kisses or something like that. Yeah, he's really a flirtatious doctor compared to Five.
yeah, because I know it fits. Like I've only experienced one story with him so far, which is like Fitz's story in Company of Friends. But I am looking forward to getting to like his stuff when I get to. I think it's The Taint. That's his first book. Yeah, I mean I've
Mm,
still got quite a while to go till that because I think I'm on book 4, which is like Genocide, written by Paul Leonard.
yes. Please note as a disclaimer, we do not endorse genocide, even though we will be doing the genocide machine.
Yeah,
Yeah, so no, Fitz is just an incredibly funny companion. I think it's implied he is, but I think he might be bi. Correct me if I'm wrong. But his
yeah, I think
flirtation.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was that confirmed it. I think it might have been Stephen Cole. Like I remember seeing that somewhere, but don't quote me on that. It's like I
Oh,
may
I
be
think
wrong, and if I am, just feel free to point that out.
yeah, because the Target storybook was absolutely hysterical because they're literally like tied up, and then Fitz is like screaming at him like, "How are you so calm?" And Eight's like, "Oh, don't worry, get ready. They might give us some seasoning. They might give us a hog roast, spit roast." And I'm like, "What? What are you doing?" It was so funny. I was preparing for death, and Fitz was like, "What's wrong with you?" And he's like, "Oh, don't worry, we're getting seasoning here. We'll be all right."
uh,
It's his. That's what I meant about his sarcasm and humor. Eight for a Doctor who is not comedic is one of the most comedic Doctors of all time.
yeah,
It's just so funny how Eight's the sweet kind of Doctor that Perry wants to describe Five as, but yet when you let him off the leash, he could have had comedy stand-up somewhere because it's so funny half the things he comes up with.
yeah. I mean, you never know. Could be a future story one day.
Now, can I also just highlight as well? Well, also going back to drawing it, I think it was when they finished started letting Paul McGann sing, like in the Lucy Miller box set and Peloton. I think that it's like before, we had like Shooty now doing and Colin before him sing, but when he starts humming, no, 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 it's just something really mesmerizing hearing Paul
Yeah, it's
McGann going full throttle lately.
yeah, yeah, it's just like he has like such a good singing voice. Like yeah, when he's like doing the Venusian lullaby, and I'm just like, damn, I could listen to this for a while.
Yeah, and I don't know if you did the box set for the Further Adventures of Lucy Miller. If you
Yeah,
haven't,
yeah, I did. Yeah, I remember doing it. I think it was back in February. I think like on the bus, like down to Glasgow, like for a day trip. Like yeah,
I
I can
think for
remember.
me, I think the strongest story for me was the Fendal story in the finale, where then Eight just starts singing.
Yeah, because I'll be honest. I think my favorite was actually that one with the roller derby. Like because I found that
That
one to like be a pretty good story. Like and pretty fun.
do you know what?
Like
First I didn't like it, but then when because I was like, what is this madhouse thing? And then when I heard it again, I was, oh, now I get it. It's absolutely hysterical hearing Lucy drag him into that.
yeah,
Come on, Doctor, let's roller skate. It's like, oh, go on. And it's like, okay, fine, let's make a whole story about this.
yeah,
So now, I think because we're going to kind of wrap up the segments and we're going to start recommending people for first time listeners to Big Finish. So for me, well, I can't really start with mine because it's not relevant to this podcast. Mine was basically Master, which is a seventh Doctor. So I'd think for an eighth Doctor type of podcast, I'd say never. Don't be afraid of the Eighth Doctor. Is there a huge backlog? Yes, but the great thing about Big Finish, you can start where you want. Really, you could start with
yeah,
Storm Warning and work your way up. You can start literally from the Divergent arc. You can start from Terra Firma. You can literally start with Lucy, Molly. You can literally start where you want with eight. But if you're going to start like at box set number 6 of like say Time War or something, and you get confused as heck, but don't do that. Don't no.
yeah,
Just also don't. I don't like having spoilers, but when you read a title, say the girl who never was or Absolution, be prepared. Don't start on the finales.
Yeah, yeah, and also I will say, like, unless you want to be very confused, maybe don't start with the Grace. Like,
I did digress about the backlog because I had that at my college and I didn't know anything about Big Finish really at that point. I had Master, but I just thought, oh, first time I hear they've dropped it. And I was like, what is this madhouse? What is a rabbit? Why is Annika Wills not Polly?
what? Why is Ace a duck?
Yeah, why is Bernie Summerfield in this as a was it a Fleming Gazelle or was that Mel? I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
remember.
Sergeant Gazelle.
Yeah, I was like, oh, Bernice the Gazelle, boys. Then you had Turlo, you had Five as like a bishop, I mean a vicar or
Yeah,
whatever.
Reverend. Yeah,
How
Reverend.
is it Reverend Townsend? And I was like, what is this? And then you have Sylvester, like some kind of Willy Wonka character, like, yes, I want on Winkle.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is
Yeah,
this?
it's more of a Walt Disney kind of character, like or
Oh, no,
even cryogenically frozen as well.
yeah, oh no, I know he's more Disney, but when you see the illustration, people have said Wonka more when you see him. But saying that, I kind of get that as well. But then you have the Six Doctors, the enemy of the Time Lords, like a flaming vampire of all things.
Yeah, Lord Tepesh.
But in a sense, I kind of get the story that at the time they were trying something different. And you can't fault them for that, having like the TARDIS played by the late and great Nicholas Courtney, the Brigadier.
Yes.
Who was such a jealous old thing in that story. It was so funny.
Yeah, yeah, and also like Don Warrington is Rassilon. Like, I'd definitely say he's definitely like one of my favorite actors to play him.
I think personally, there was never enough of him before they regenerated him into Terence Hardiman. So if there was a gap for his Rassilon to return, like the story that explained how we escaped the Divergent arc, please do. That would be wonderful.
Yeah. Also spoilers.
Well,
yeah, sorry.
Well, technically, people who hear the Battle of Giants Causeway review are basically these are for Eighth Doctor people, but for new people coming to just go la 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 and pretend you're listening to Kyle Imano. Yeah, you just can't get it out of your head. No. But no, final thoughts on Battle of Giants Causeway. We don't tend to do ratings as much for a story because we never seem to have the time. But for me, I would perfectly say this is a great 10 out of 10 story because it's just well crafted. It was really fun, and I got to understand Carey's more as a character compared to the last few audios with him. It was really disheartening because I really liked him in Creed of the Cromon, which was his introduction. Really liked Terra Firma. Obviously, Next Life with the squabble with him and Charlie because they didn't know if they wanted to be a team. And I like that 8 put his foot down towards it. Like, either you're going to be friends or you can both stay in the Divergent universe and he can go home. So 8 really laid down the gauntlet in that one. But yeah, no, it's wonderful. But Adrian, what would you say the story is for you?
Yeah, I'd say you pretty much took the words out of my mouth. Like, it is just a solid 10 out of 10 story.
Yes, and I just think back when years to come, like it was a wonderful bonus treat to hear that team again, and I could never ever thank Lizzie Hopley enough for being the woman to write Carey's return story. So if you're out there, Big Finish, get Joe Lidster, get virtually anyone who like John Dorney, anyone out there who's advocating to also write for Carey's because we need that box set. We need the Divergent one with like the writers that want to write for that team.
Yeah, like here's hoping to more 8 Charlie and Kara's stories. Yeah. And I'd be holding a glass. Just imagine I'm holding a glass, just like here. Here's to more.
Last one before we wrap up, Aiden. I just thought of a quick one. If there was any character that you want Carey's, Charlie, and the Doctor to fight as that crew, who would you and why? For me, I already picked the Master, just so I could hear Jeffrey Beavers properly with them this time.
yeah, because I think because I know Jeffrey Beavers kind of got to meet like actually twice, like in Life at the End and Planet of Dust. But it would be cool to like see the Beavers master like, or maybe like maybe not Alex or Queen, because I think he first meets him in Dark. Well, maybe like I'm just trying to think about which incarnation I'd like to see them face. Like, probably. Yeah, I was going to say probably like Beavers for me. Like, although either that or this is going to come from a bit of biases, are like one of my favorite like monsters, like the Silurians.
Oh, do you know? I'd think Carey's. If you meant like the newer Silurians, I'd think I think he would try to relate with them a lot more compared to the originals.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
if you're out there as well.
Yeah, sorry. I was going to say it's like either modern or classic Silurians. It would be cool to see like that TARDIS team face them, and yeah.
And that's it. I'll also be advocating for classic Doctors, new monsters since they've got the companions, to try that TARDIS team in there as well. Because who knows? Maybe one day we could get, what's it called? Any monster from the New Who'd fight. We could get the Reapers because we've not had them yet. We could get them to fight.
Yeah, because I remember thinking that would be a good monster for them to face, like especially with the whole story with Charlie.
Yes, because they probably would be aware that she's traveling with a future Doctor. In her perspective, but to where it hasn't happened yet, they could try and meddle with her timeline.
Yeah, and also like there's the whole thing with like the R101, like maybe they could appear at some point then, maybe too.
Yeah, it's like retcon it. I like it where they were there at the R101, but it took them a while to catch up with the Doctor and Charlie and Carey's because of the Divergent universe.
Yeah.
Right. So I think this is good to be where we draw a close for tonight. So I wanted to say thank you again so much, Trevor. Sorry about the technical issues. Wi-Fi, would you believe? Oh,
yeah. It's usually something that happens, at least in some episodes. But
so I know. So we will be back. The podcast will be uploaded as soon as they can be. We're still waiting for the Conrad Westmass one to be uploaded. Fingers crossed, ASAP. We are going to be getting Boom out shortly because we've recorded that. This will be also released as soon as possible. But just also wanted to say next week we will return with 7 to 3 yards next Saturday, and on Friday it's going to be in-house vote of a classic Who story that nobody here might be itching to see. It could be from the 1st up to 7th Doctor. But if you're really that itching, we're going to do the TV movie if we don't come to a unanimous decision. We might just do the film since we're on an 8th Doctor at the minute.
Yeah.
But on that note, I wanted to say it's a good night from me. Good night, everyone, again from the Tales of the Whoniverse podcast. And we'll see you soon. And good night, Aidan.
Yeah, good night to everyone. I hope you all enjoyed. And once again, don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Tales of the Whoniverse YouTube channel. Yeah, I got two into the Capaldi impression. Just ended up signing the actual thing. Well.
Yes. Thank you again, everyone. Good night.
Hello, this is Kerry's, and you've been listening to the Tales of the Whoniverse podcast.